Story from the trenches. I had a client with a large water bill and they were blaming it on their orchard. They were thinking, well, we've got all these lemon trees. That's standard. But I said, no, there are other symptoms. I think you have a water leak. But here I am. I fixed their gas leak and I'm working on their list of items. And we're talking as we go down the road. I keep saying, I think you have a water leak. Let me check underneath this crawl space. And this is a large rectangular home. It goes on forever. As you look in the front door, there's actually 3 separate bays. And they took me at one point to this middle bay, and they showed me that they had a sump pump in there, and it had a fan right in the middle, which makes no sense, on a timer, and that fan would circulate air in the sump pump. When it filled up like a little well, the flow would activate and it would pump water out. And they said this water was coming from the back bank. They had a hill and they had a swimming pool. So they were thinking that it's just what the previous contractor had told them. It's a leak. It's drainage. It's runoff. It's storm related. It's whatever. It's seasonal. I said, no, there's other issues I'm seeing here. So I continued working on the list item. I'm there a day or two a week because I've got plenty of other clients trying to keep happy. So finally, let's just say fast forward, get to where it's a year later. I said, look, something's wrong. And now they're actually seeing that their water bill continues to go up and up and up. And we're in the rainy season where it's not required as much water for the orchard. So I said, let me check the first bay. Let me check underneath the house. Well, we had to move the TV, a big, huge console TV system, out of the corner and pull up the hardwood flooring access panel. Open up the panel, and you're not going to believe it. It was full of water. We're talking like 2 foot deep of water. Concrete stem walls, 2 foot deep of water. So, yes, what's the moral to this story? After this, they trusted me a little more easily when I said, I think you need to let me check. So, yes, I drained the water out, turned the water off, found out it was a leak in a 2-inch copper line that had come up through the earth up into the crawl space and took a 90. It was at that 90 where it was just spraying out, and that spray was eroding and making a bigger hole, faster leak. Yeah, so after this repair, after all of the drying out, there were some joist brackets that were rusting. There was some warpage going on, but luckily it hadn't contacted any wood surfaces, so I saved them who knows how much money once they let me into that crawl space. So when you think about it, that sump pump would kick in. It wasn't solving the problem, it was just dealing with the symptoms. It was dealing with the cycle of the issues of the water permeating through the stem walls, accumulating and kicking on that pump. And they were dealing with this fan that was so loud they had that contractor put a timer on it so that they could sleep at night. And it wasn't exhausting the air and pulling fresh air in, it was just blowing the air around inside and just spreading the moisture around. Not everybody knows what they're doing. Not everybody has the level of experience or just general know-how that this house doctor has. So as I said, after that, they never doubted me again. And over the years, they would look to buy another house. They would had this habit of not being happy with the one house, and they'd find another house, and they'd have the home inspectors come through and do their test, and then they'd have me come through after that. And it got to the point where I kept finding too many things that were going to cost them too much money, too much hassle. So they would pass on one house after another, and they finally stopped calling me. They said, look, we like some of these houses we're looking at, and we'll deal with the consequences. We don't need to know the nightmares in advance. I said, that's fine. And then you call me in, and I'll help you with those problems, and I'll keep the cost down as much as I can. But that just goes to show you that they trusted me enough, but then they got tired of trusting me too much. You know, they stopped calling me for home inspections, but they didn't stop trusting me. They would give me some of the home inspections reports to look at and see if I saw anything that was glaring, but wouldn't let me walk through those houses. So here's what I wanted you to take away from this. 1, high water bills are not normal, even if you have a pool, even if you have landscaping, even if you have a hillside or an orchard. They should stay pretty consistent depending on the weather. And 2, don't let people, even professionals, convince you that the symptoms are normal. Oh, it's on a hillside. Oh, it's got an orchard. No, if something doesn't feel right, it probably isn't right. Trust your instincts, and if you hire someone to investigate, trust their instincts too. If they match your instincts. I mean, this is kind of common sense. 3, Band-Aid solutions are not the answer. They don't deal with the root causes. They just deal with the symptoms. The pump and fan weren't fixing anything. They were costing them money and causing them irritation. They were masking the real problem, which kept getting worse and worse while everyone thought the system was handling it. Find the source, fix the source. 4, crawl spaces are out of sight, out of mind until they're not. Access panels hidden behind furniture, behind TVs, in closets, they're forgotten, and problems grow in the dark. If you haven't looked under your house in years, maybe it's time. 5, hire someone who looks beyond your list. Most contractors will show up, fix exactly what you ask them to fix with their little blinders on, and they'll collect their check and they'll leave, and they'll go on to the next clients. Whereas I built clients for life. As I said earlier, some of my clients I had for over 30 years, and I worked for their kids. I'm looking at everything because I care about you, not just the paycheck. That's the difference between someone doing a job and someone who's protecting your investment. So if you're in the Granbury or Glen Rose area and you need someone who's going to be persistent about finding problems before they become disasters, check out MrFixer.com. That's MrPhixer.com. And if you've got a persistent issue in your house, something that doesn't seem right, but everyone keeps telling you it's normal, trust your gut, investigate. If the story resonates with you, hit subscribe. I've got 3 decades of stories about the things people miss and the problems that are hiding in plain sight. I'm Mr. Fixer, and I'll see you on the next one.